Okay, so after another full playthrough of the game since my last modding video, a lot of testing and trying things out, I think I got the perfect mod baseline for Stalker 2, at least to my taste. I'm saying baseline because the mods I'm gonna talk about today are what I consider the essentials. Things I wish the game had by default, to be fair, and didn't require any mods, but here we are. A mix of quality of life and gameplay improvements that make the game much more enjoyable. And a baseline also in the sense that all these mods are very stable, very resilient to every update so far, so they're not gonna break your game, require a new start, and if a big patch hits tomorrow, everything will very likely still be working perfectly fine. Hey, it's Cheeky from the editing room. I was done recording this video and in the middle of editing it when patch 1.3 dropped, and the devs almost are making me lie about how resilient this mod list is. Two mods I'm gonna talk about today broke with the update, something to do with weapon meshes, details don't really matter. One day later, both have been updated already, so it's not really an issue. I'd say out of 20 mods, 2 finally breaking after 3 giant updates and you can just turn them off and keep playing while waiting for them to be updated, is pretty resilient, my point stands. A bit of a disappointing patch by the way, but it's progress in the right direction I guess. Okay, moving on. I'm gonna go over more advanced stuff in later videos, things we can build on top of this baseline, but today let's start with this updated and refined version of the list of mods I honestly couldn't play without anymore. I'm not going to say if you're not using them you're missing out, but yeah, they're so easy to install and make such a huge difference. If you're on PC, you're kinda missing out. And check out this video if you have any questions on how to set up and manage all your mods. I covered everything you need to know in there. And as usual, all the links and all the extra info you might need is in the video description. Okay, let's get started. Performance is still not the best, not gonna lie, even if you have a decent rig, and optimized tweaks is still a must to reduce stutter, frame times, and overall improve performance. There's a reason this mod is one of the most downloaded of all time. There are other performance-focused mods that work fine too, but Optimized Tweaks is the one regularly updated and more importantly has the least issues when you're starting to heavily mod your game, especially when you start using Reshade. I play on a potato and it's always the first thing I install when I start modding my game. The game is in a much better state in terms of bugs and broken quests since the two last big updates, but I still make a lot of manual hard save, just to be safe, and I still very quickly reach the limit of saves you can make, so Bode's unlimited save is still a must. One thing I wonder is why can't we rename our save files? I know it's a little things and not a priority, but quality of life stuff that was in the OG game and not in Stalker 2 kinda drives me crazy. Anyways. We're all loot goblins, we all spend most of our time walking back to the nearest trader, overloaded with our inventory completely full. That's part of the game and I love it. But the default carry weight is way too low. I used to have a couple different mods to try to fix that, something to remove the weight of quest items, something to reduce the weight of ammo, medicine and food and so on. These days I don't really bother anymore, I just use adjustable carry weight to slap 100 kg of extra carry weight to my character and that's it. You can of course go higher, but I feel 100 is a sweet spot. You can carry more than vanilla, so it's less frustrating, but not a ridiculous amount either. A good armor, artifacts, consumables are still very useful, it doesn't break the spirit of the game, just makes it a little bit easier on you. Large loot inventory, because why do I have to stare at a tiny inventory and scroll for hours to find something is beyond me? This one is pretty self-explanatory and should have been in the default game since day one. You can also throw descriptive ammo boxes in the same category. There's a couple mods doing this, but this one is subtle, clear and well made. I don't need giant numbers to tell me what ammo is what, just a little push to make things easier to identify, and descriptive ammo is doing exactly that. I have a love-hate relationship with the fact that you can't reload while sprinting, and it will cancel the whole animation if you don't time it perfectly. I get the idea, you have to play smarter, be prepared, can't cheese the enemies that easily and so on, but it's still so frustrating to me that I find faster reload, aim downside and equip speed a very good mod, like a very good compromise. It's pretty self-explanatory. You reload faster, you aim faster, you switch weapons faster, so you keep the same design philosophy of how fights should be played, but you make it a bit less frustrating and more enjoyable, so it's a win-win in my view. Okay, now let's talk about balance changes. I played the game in Veteran, so keep this in mind as everything coming is more tailored to that difficulty setting, but it will work for any difficulty setting you're playing at. And I'm someone who likes grinding and having a slow but rewarding progression. I love the loot scarcity mod from the Heart of Misery overhaul. This mod will greatly reduce the amount of item you find in stashes, boxes and bodies. Now you will actually be happy to find something, instead of being showered in loot so often that it doesn't matter anymore. This mod won't touch the items you find randomly in the world though, so they become extremely important. I might be a little bit masochistic, but I like turning off the white dot that shows you all the items in the world, so you actively have to look for them when you're exploring, and they're so important now that it makes the game much more immersive. I like pairing loot scarcity with increased rewards. The 1.5 option, the 2x option is fine too. You barely find enough ammo, medicine and food in the wild to survive now, so this will make side missions very important to do and actually rewarding. You cannot ignore them anymore, you have to do side missions now if you want to survive. If it makes the experience a bit too hardcore, I'd recommend using reduced repair cost. You will use a lot of your money to buy basic necessities now, so having high repair cost can really put you in the hole. I like the 60% option, so for every 1000 you would have spent in vanilla in repairs, it will cost you 600 instead. And I still like to use reasonable weapon degradation. It's not really necessary when you use reduced repair cost already, in terms of game economy, but I just don't like my weapons getting damaged so fast all the time, it gets really tedious. This mod makes it 50% better, which is all I need. To finish with the balance changes, I still love using the medkits and consumables rebalance. Bandages don't heal you anymore, medkits heal you slower, energy drinks are less powerful but last much longer, and a lot of other very logical balance changes that makes the game more challenging and realistic, in the sense that you can't run without thinking into every fight, you need to be more prepared, take things slowly and more tactical, so it's more interesting in the end. And this goes very well with the realistic movement speed mod. They kinda share the same spirit in terms of intended gameplay. You run and sprint a bit slower, but you have better stamina and stamina regen, so consumables and artifacts really play to your strength, and you cannot get out so easily of every bad situation, so you have to play smarter and can't be super aggressive all the time. Speaking of fights, Maclean's better gunfights is still a must despite the recent patches. The NPCs will feel less embodied, especially at medium and long ranges, and the fights will be more fair and last longer. It works very well with the NPC combat overhaul mod. That's the first mod I feel really makes a difference in terms of AI and how enemy stalkers behave. They're still dumb and nowhere near old school stalker games, but it's nice to actually witness them trying to flank you, get cover and help each other, and just not be complete dum-dums. It definitely makes the gunfights less bland and more interesting. And here would be a good spot to sneak in better ballistics. It's a complete overhaul of all the weapons, ammo, damage, recoil, fire rate, range, penetration, bullet drop. It really rebalances everything for an improved gunplay experience. And there's also a lot of changes to make the weapons real-life accurate in terms of ammo they use, magazine capacity and so on. It's really covering everything. It definitely makes the game harder. You will absolutely feel it when fighting better geared enemies, but I guess that's what we want, right? Just make sure to have this mod at the bottom of your load order if you decide to use it, but that's pretty much it. And all of this is fully compatible with Shay's Living Zone, which tries to emulate what A-Life should be. So basically a truly living, breathing zone. Stalker patrols, more random fights and encounters, not scripted events, but a more dynamic A-Life with offline persistence. I mean, we're not there yet, and this issue is fully on the devs to improve, but at least this mod greatly improves the feeling that the zone is alive, and running into people doing their own thing, following them around and stumbling into random fights is pretty nice, and much more immersive than what the vanilla game has to offer right now. Balanced grenades for NPCs is nice to stop the constant spam of grenades every time you get cover. NPCs will still use them, but in a more realistic way, not like every bandit carries 15 grenades around their belt just in case they meet you. And I still like to use better NPC progressive loadouts. This issue was addressed in the latest patch. Before that, as soon as you reach certain story milestones, every Stalker you'd meet had endgame gear on them, exoskeleton, crazy weapons and so on, which was very unrealistic and kinda boring. So latest patch mostly fixed this, but this mod is still pretty good to introduce variety and diversity in the people you meet. Smoother weapon progression too, and it works very well with everything we talked about so far. Longer days. Another thing that was fixed somewhat in the previous patch, the days and night cycles were made a bit longer, but I still like to use real longer days. First, to make the days even longer, but to control exactly how long you want your days and nights to be. I like using the 2:1 ratio, so days being twice longer as nights, but there's a ton of different options available. I do enjoy playing at night, but with the crappy flashlight and still no NVGs, a lot of people will be interested in the amount of control this mod gives you. And the last big mod I've been using so far is Dynamic Weather Overhaul. It addresses an issue I had with the weather system since the beginning. It looks amazing when something is happening, but it doesn't feel natural, dynamic. Weather events stop and start very randomly, some events almost never happen. This mod fixes a lot of these issues with more weather events, different patterns for different areas, more activity in general. It's a really good step towards more immersion and better zone atmosphere. And to finish, I'll give a special mention to 5 last mods that I enjoy using, but are more little bonuses than game-changing improvements. Better flashlight shadows, pretty much self-explanatory. Better decals and better wounds to have more bloody and realistic fights with visible wounds on your enemies. Quieter detector because I don't feel we really need to be warned of every single anomaly. I might even completely turn it off one day. Increased knife melee range. I'm assuming it might help to sneak and stab people in the back, but for me it's just to break boxes easier. Also less annoying flashbang anomalies. I hate how unavoidable they are and how much they will damage your gear with little counterplay. This mod solves pretty much every issue I have with them, while keeping them threatening and something you need to be mindful of. And if you want a ledge grabbing, vaulting, increased climbing height mod, S.T.A.L.K.E.R is the one these days that's regularly updated with a lot of different options to choose from. And I'm generally not a huge fan of reshades, but I have to say I've been using the PRZ Cold Light Photorealistic Zone, mainly for the great NVGs it gives, and the overall reshade has slowly been growing on me. There's 3 different presets you can try, and all of them are honestly pretty good. I didn't notice any performance drop, and again, great NVGs. So not mandatory, but if you're looking for a good reshade, after trying a ton, that's my favorite out of the box so far. Okay, that's it for my mod essentials. All the basic things I really can't play without anymore and think greatly enhance the game for very little cost and time investment. Again, if you need info on how to install everything easily, check this video out, and next time we'll cover some cool full game overhauls, mods that add more contents, items and so on. But honestly, most of my playthroughs are small variation of this mod list I shared today, and it's already plenty enough. Cheers.